Let's see. This is Susie. How would you recommend dealing with a man who says he loves me and demonstrates that, but vacillates between expressing an interest in marrying me and doubting that he is in a place to marry or ever will be? I wanted to ask you this since you're newly engaged, Cary. And so I'm guessing the underlying thing here is probably Susie would like to be in a committed relationship leading to marriage, and he's vacillating even though he's loving.
Sure. Great question. And thank you, Susie, for asking that question. First off is, allowing, and that's taking in if he is expressing he's loving you. Okay. And also, how long have you been connected, been dating or in a serious relationship with him as well? So you have to look at that timing, as well as exploring your values, your needs may be equal to his or not, and to breathe, to have a friendly conversation about marriage. Is that important to him? Is it not important to him? Was he married before? Did he have a good experience, not experience? Same with you. Instead of like a forcing, have an exploration of understanding. And from that, and once you kind of have a number of different kind of conversations over time about things, let say things and then let them simmer if they're not in a complete accordance. Feel that out. And then if there is a place over time where you feel like he is really loving you, but is showing maybe gun shy or afraid to commit in that sense to marriage, then explore that again, being straight out in front and asking that question. Are you, afraid to get married to me? And if so, why? Is it me personally? Because you might find it's not about you personally at all, Susie. It could be about his experiences. It could be about his history, his growing up, and maybe his parents got divorced and he's afraid to have that happen again. So if you're willing to explore this, and as a lover, and more importantly, I would say as a friend, to get to know him more, then you're going to have a lot more understanding of how to go about exploring. Are you two meant to get married? Is he someone who wants to get married? And is it something that can be worked out over time? Because, generally, if there are issues there, they can be worked out. And it's and the thing is, like, marriage happens way before the ceremony happens. And Susie, the reality of marriage is going to happen, and the importance of that is more important than the ceremony itself as well. So let's get to deepening this friendship in this core, and then that will naturally lead to what you need to do. Are you on the pathway to getting married, or are you on the pathway of going, wow, I'm with someone who has potential, but it's not actualized? Meaning, like, he, in whatever reasons in himself, he's afraid to make that kind of commitment to himself and to a relationship. So that's what I love to share with you about it. Have fun with it. Don't get so pressured about, the wedding kind of thing, being married.
You know what, Cary, one thing I really liked that you brought forward there was that I think sometimes we're afraid to ask the questions because we're afraid of the answers, right? And you're basically saying, ask the questions, be bold, be courageous, to seek to understand. It comes back to that seeking first to understand and then to be understood concept. And I think sometimes because we're afraid of the answers, we don't ask the questions because we're not quite sure we're ready to hear what might come forward. But relationships, to be successful, have to be grounded in truth. And so we have to be bold and courageous and seek the truth and to seek what's really going on if something like this is a big ongoing question.
Yeah, it's great, Michelle. And, in my, with my wife that has passed on, we had a great relationship that led me to want to get married again. But I could see the opposite if you didn't have a good relationship, or if your history, like I mentioned, of parents that got divorced and that affected you, that's in your kind of psyche and just needs to be explored. And beautiful. Ask the questions and be willing to explore them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Now I lost track. Are we on you, Ken?
Yes, that's the way it's been going.
Okay, good. All right. This is from Estrella. Estrella, hopefully I'm saying your name correctly. She says, I'm 40 and I've been exclusive for 8 months with a man. He's been single, focused with a new job position, and hasn't made time for us in a month. He's been a gentleman, but I feel so insignificant now. He does contact me via text to check in. Am I just a safe bet?
Well, that's a good question, Estrella. I like that.
It's a good question.
And it's a vulnerable one. So thanks for being open.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't answer, are you just a safe bet? Obviously, that's the question you need to ask him. So this comes back to what Michelle just said. You obviously have a question you're afraid to ask him.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're asking us, which is okay. It's a start point. But the truth is, he's the only one that can answer that question with absolute certainty. And I also want to ask you, could you tell me again, Michelle, the part she said about he's a gentleman or something?
Let me see if I can go back to it. She said something like, let's see. He has been a gentleman, but I feel so insignificant now. Basically, she says they've been in a relationship for 8 months, but he's in a new job, hasn't made time for them in a month, has been a gentleman, but I feel so insignificant now. He does contact me via text to check in. Am I just a safe bet?
Got it. So here's the other key component, and what I'm hearing in your question, Estrella, is you're hanging on to who he was at some point. He's been a gentleman, but he hasn't made time for you in a month. Well, we can hang on to he's been a gentleman for the rest of your life if you want to. But the truth is, how are you being treated now? You even said it, right? You don't feel like you're a priority. You don't feel like you matter. You feel like you're just a safe bet. So clearly that doesn't sit well for you.
Right.
And this is about boundaries. So you're not letting him know what you need to be your best with him. So no matter what, if he showed up tomorrow, you would still have this going on. Yeah, but the last month he never even called me. And you might excuse that behavior and wipe it all away because he shows up with a bouquet of flowers. But the truth is, it's about how you feel with him. You shared with us how you feel. You don't feel good. This is not good. Yeah, you've kind of rationalized and explained away this bad behavior, which is a very easy thing to do when we're afraid of the actual answer. What if the answer is he's not as interested as he was at one point? He decided it wasn't there. Okay, wouldn't you rather know that than sit there in this torturous space of I don't know what's going on and I'm not getting anything from him? And yeah, sure, I get a few texts. It's like I get a few crumbs that fall off the table, but I'm really starving here. That's basically what you just told us. So this is when it's time to be honest with yourself. And like I said, he's the only one that can really answer that. Maybe it is the job situation. I don't know his situation. But he's the only one that can answer it. So this is where you've got to either get curious or decide you're not even interested in finding out. But when you get curious, it's not an inquisition. It's literally being curious. I'm literally curious, like, what happened and do you see an end to this? Like, you got a new job, I get that. I know there's some other things going on, but I'm curious, like, is that all you want is somebody to text every once in a while? Or is there something more here? And is there an insight to this change in our relationship? Because it's about where you are today. Like I said, you can hang on to once upon a time, he was a gentleman. And there are countless people that do that. I talk to women every day that are telling me the story of how, yeah, but he was once really wonderful. I talked to a woman the other day. This will blow your mind potentially. So she's been hanging on to these things because of where he was at one point for 23 years.
Oh.
And she's still, but maybe that will show up. I'm like, 23 years? Like, that was the first 6 months of your relationship, and ever since, you're just hoping that comes back? But she's so afraid of walking away. Clearly, 23 years. It can happen faster than you think. You'll look up one day and go, I've been with this guy for 5 years. That all changed when you took that job, and it's never gotten better. It's not going to solve itself. You've got to get curious. You've got to ask those questions. And the truth is, if you're not that interested, then let him know that too. And be like, look, if this is all there is, this doesn't work for me. And do it from your heart. With a man, here's something I want all of you to write down. You can never be too direct with a man as long as it's coming from love. The last part is the most important. Telling a man, you suck, or why don't you ever do that? That's not coming from love. That's coming from anger. That's coming from frustration. That's coming from worry. That's coming from fear. But when you're really curious, genuinely curious, like a little kid is curious, I really want to understand. That's coming from love. I want to understand what's going on. What's happening? Because I don't quite get it. Like, we used to spend time together. Now all I get is a few texts. If you're not interested, that's fine. Let me know, but I want to understand. That's curiosity. That will open him up. Mm-hmm. So thank you for asking and being open with that, Estrella. Very good.
Yeah, that was a very, very good answer. And yes, you cannot be too direct if you're asking the question from a place of love and that place of curiosity. And it comes back to what we talked about earlier about not being afraid of knowing the truth, because the example you gave, Ken, of 23 years is heartbreaking. But there's so many women that are in the what I call fantasy stage, which is this relationship or this man would be so great if only he was not still married, or if only he was putting effort into our relationship, or if only whatever. The problem is that's not the reality. That's the fantasy. That's what they wish was happening. And women, unfortunately, will invest months, even years of their time into those kind of relationships. From a personal experience, I had a relationship in my 30s where I was madly in love with this guy, and we had this on-again, off-again thing, but he was never really fully in it, right? He would give me just kind of enough to kind of keep hanging on, and we'd kind of try things again and again. When I got engaged to my husband, he actually said to me, Michelle, I always thought you'd be an option. He didn't mean that mean. He just really always thought I would be an option for him.
Yeah.
You don't want to be making someone else a priority who thinks of you as an option.
Exactly.
All right. So, Dave, let's see. This is a good one, too. This is unfortunately something that happens too often. I'm on the right person, right, Dave?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Susie says, greetings. I was scammed about 2 years ago, both romantically and financially. Sorry that happened, Susie. What are some ways to share this experience? I think meaning share this experience with someone new she's dating after I have developed a trust with someone. Thanks.
Wow, that is a good one. My first question is, why do you need to? Like, what is... I don't really know enough details there, but like, I mean, you could. We've all got a lot of stories and things that have happened in the past, but there's maybe more to it that I don't really understand the significance to it. Maybe that would be why you might have a little reticence to connect with people online. Mm-hmm. That makes it obviously a topic you'd want to talk about. The thing is, I would suggest doing some work in some way to get okay with it and not take it personally. It sounds like underneath of it, there's some guilt and shame, maybe. And if there's guilt and shame, that's not great for you, because the fact is this happens. And a lot of times we take it personally, like we beat ourselves up and say, oh my God, I can't believe I was so stupid or whatever. And that's not really fair, because there are people out there who are very, they're very good at pulling these scams, and they're way more prevalent than anyone, really wants to acknowledge. I'm glad she's sharing it. I'm really sorry it happened. I would say try to find the empowering lesson in it. And once you do, then it's great to share that story, especially, because this happened to me. It doesn't define me. Here's what I learned from it. Here's why I'm better because of it. And here's why that'll never happen again. So I think that's a great frame for it. But again, I don't know enough about where she is with it. It sounds like there's still some guilt and shame. My recommendation, no matter what she does, is work on that. It's not her fault. It just happens, and there are people who are just great con artists, and we just have to, be careful about, trust and verify, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of almost sounds like there might be a little bit of a temptation to project the past onto a present person. And we have to be careful about that. Like, because someone did that in the past, you don't want to make that assumption it's going to happen with a new person, right?
Or to give an excuse for a behavior that's not resolved yet, too. Like, no, because this person did that, now I can't trust you. It's like, well, wait a minute, this person didn't do anything to you. And that's not really fair, and that's you speaking from the wounded self. And that's why I'm saying do some work around that for you individually. It's the best gift that you can give yourself. It doesn't define you.
Yeah. Forgiving yourself and forgiving that other person so that you can release that so it no longer has a hold on you. The power of forgiveness is really, really powerful in some of these situations if you've been hurt or harmed. It's not always easy, but it can help release you from something that's holding on to you from the past.